Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneier. Joined as always my co-host Nick Filato. And today's a great day. It's a special day. Great day. First of all, it's a great day because walk outside in the morning, go for a 30-minute walk, Nick, to start the day. It's the best way to start the day. You take a little bit of water, 16 ounces, Nick. Took a walk. It's 75 degrees out. Looked at my phone, Nick, and said, holy shit. Sorry for the cursing. We did it. We got to 10K, and we didn't even have to wait until draft night, Nick. A week before the draft, we got to 10,000 subscribers here on YouTube. The next goal, Nick, 15,000. Is that okay to ask for? Man, we're dropping a lot of content here. I hope we can get more people on our page, people who are interested in the Giants, but also in the draft, because we've talked a lot of prospects. We've done a lot of breakdowns. We've done a lot of film as well. And we will do what we always do, by the way, post-draft, Nick. I like one of the most fun things I think we do is breaking down the NFC East drafts. I have a good time evaluating the Washington draft and the Eagles and the Cowboys, and maybe we'll do some best picks for other teams, things like that, things that surprise us, just some fun reaction stuff. But today, what we're doing is one of our favorite pre-draft pods. It's the Dueling 7-round mock draft for the New York Football Giants. 7-round mock. Basically, the way we did this for time's sake and to keep this thing flowing well. Nick and I both did our mocks before the pod. So we compiled our mocks, we made our picks, we used the Pro Football Focus Draft Simulator. We both set the board in the settings a similar way. So you can choose public versus PFF board. We lean toward the public because I think that makes the most sense, the consensus. You could choose, put a emphasis on positional need. We even that out, Nick and I, so we have a similar situation here unfolding. Now, unfortunately, the PFF draft board has its own issues and kept having Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter going 1 and 2 overall. So we had a chance at Cam Ward. We had to evaluate that and make sure that this mock had Cam Ward going 1 because we're not idiots and we know that's not going to happen. So the Giants aren't getting Cam Ward in this draft, but trades are available. Last year, I think in last year's mock, Nick, I traded up for Drake May. And I believe you had a second-round trade in last year's mock. So maybe we'll make trades. Maybe we won't. What we'll do in this mock is break down the picks that we made. Nick ran his own 7-round mock. I ran my own 7-round mock. And then we'll also evaluate players that were on the board that we considered at that time, which I'm looking through right now on my phone as well. So without further ado, Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you, every single one of you who have subscribed to the podcast. 10K, big deal. We're going to strive for 15, as Dan said. I would love to get there. Maybe by the start of the season. I know that's a little bit rich, but hopefully we keep growing. This is a lot of fun for Dan and I, and we really enjoy it. And we really enjoy hearing from you guys. So please comment all your opinions on how bad our drafts are. Who won, whatever. It doesn't matter. But yeah, man, we're here to have a good time. So let's talk New York Giants.
Oh, yeah. And that's a great point, Nick, by the way. We're always asking for comments in the comment section. This is a great time to comment on this video. First, hit like right now. If you're listening, please click like. We need you to click like. It's a big deal for us. This is one of our best content pieces pre-draft. We want this to blow up on the page today. So hit like and drop a comment and say, I think Nick had a better draft. I think Dan had a better draft. I like both drafts. I hate both drafts, you idiots. What the hell are you doing? We don't care. Just put it in there. And I'll look back during this night, Friday night, and I'll take a look and I'll respond to some of these and have some fun with them. So anyway, Nick, without further ado, let's give the people what they came here for, which is the Giants 7-round mock draft. So you are now Joe Schoen. I'm going to start with you. You're on the board at 3 overall in your class. Tell me who went off the board 1, 2, and tell me if you considered any trades. Because Joe Schoen said, hey, I picked up the phone about pick 3.
I did not consider any trades. Now, I think Joe Schoen should. He has a little bit more time than I do right now. But it was Cam Ward and it was Travis Hunter. And to be fully transparent right here, I only do one mock draft. I don't do mock drafts through January or February. So this is my only mock draft that I've ever done. I'm going to also post it over on Big Blue View. I'm not sure when Ed's going to drop it, but it'll be there. You guys can rip it apart over there as well. So I'm sitting there at 3. Hunter off the board, Ward off the board. I considered Shedeur Sanders, but you guys know my feelings on that. So I did not go in that direction, and I chose the chalk pick in Abdul Carter, edge out of Penn State.
Yeah, and so we get to, and I totally understand where you're coming from, Nick, with that pick. My board went the same way, actually. It was Cam Ward 1 and Travis Hunter 2. And even if I had time, Nick, and I was Joe Schoen, I would not consider trading out of this spot. Just to reiterate some of the things we've discussed on this podcast, but if anyone is just listening for the first time, Nick and I are both in agreement and lockstep on the idea that there are 2 blue chip prospects in this class in Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. How many times am I going to mess that up?
Someone AI their faces together and tag Dan and I on Twitter with that, please.
Or Travis Ward. And I wouldn't really consider trading down because of it. This is not the class for me to trade down in. I don't want Mason Graham really that much at all, and I don't even want to take the chance of trading down, not getting him. If I wanted Shedeur Sanders, I personally wouldn't want to trade down here because I wouldn't want to risk that. Think of how bad it would be if the Giants traded down to try to, with the idea in mind of let's take Sanders, but nobody really values him at 3, so let's trade down. And then someone just traded up and took him. Then what are you doing? Because you don't have Carter, Hunter, or Sanders, so that's not a consideration for me at all. To me, this is as clear as day, a time to not trade down based on the prospects, based on the board, based on the lack of blue chips after these two players, besides guys like Ashton Genty. And we know we can't be taking Ashton Genty at number 3 overall here, Nick. So that's not a consideration for me. And the last part of it, Shedeur Sanders, I think, one thing that really clarified this for me, and it's not that, it's his opinion, and now it's something that I hit it. It clicked because it's how I see it too, Nick. I listened to JT O'Sullivan, who I actually believe is the best at breaking down quarterbacks for what I look for, because he's so in depth with his analysis of quarterback play, but he also finds a way to do it in a way that people like me, who are not as advanced as him in knowing the X's and O's and of quarterback play, can understand it and can process it. And he described, I heard him break down the quarterback class. He described the Shedeur Sanders as confusing. From watching his tape and looking at his traits, he finds it very confusing that he would be projected in the first round of any draft class. And he said something that I really think is true about the Sanders projection and why I'm not considering him at 3. He doesn't believe that Pat Shurmur offense was pro style. He finds it laughable that people called it pro style. And really, he said he believes that, he's not sure people are watching the tape if they consider that pro style. And what he says is what he's going to have to deal with at the NFL level, Sanders, is something that he just hasn't seen at Colorado. That offense did not prepare him at all in JT's mind for what he'll see. And I agree with that. And I think it's a really important piece of this puzzle. That doesn't mean Sanders can't be great at the NFL level. It doesn't mean he can't see NFL defenses and go into an NFL offense and be amazing. I still think that's possible for Sanders. And I think it's important to note that he has really good traits. And I brought some of them up on Twitter yesterday, Nick. He has one of the best adjusted completion percentages. He has one of the best on target percentages on 5 to 15-yard air throws, one of the best completion percentages, a lot of great stats in that system and a lot of good numbers. And it could click for him. We'll never know that. Sure. Nick and I admit that. We're never going to know how the mental is. And people who get him in the building, Giants, let's say, if they take him at 3, could put him on a whiteboard and be like, holy shit, this guy's mind works so freaking well that he can be the point guard for my offense and he can be that high-level distributor for my offense. And if they take him at 3, that's what they're saying. I really do believe Brian Daboll is saying that. He's saying, I got him on the whiteboard, and I believe this guy is so much smarter than people realize. And that system at Colorado, yes, I agree it wasn't pro style. Yes, I agree it doesn't translate really at all, and they were running basically the same concept over and over. But I think in my system, he'll pick that up fast. He'll click in his mind, and he'll be a great player. They're also probably saying, look, he had no O-line and no run game at Colorado. What happens if I give him an O-line? What happens if I give him a run game? Those arguments fall a little bit on deaf ears with me, Nick, because they sound a little too similar to the Jones arguments. What if we give him an O-line? What if we give him this? What if we give him that? But I understand it because this is a different situation. He's coming from a system in Colorado that doesn't really, in my mind, show anything NFL-wise. So I totally get it. But for me, he's not in consideration at 3. And it sounds like for you, Nick, you thought about it, but you weren't really leaning toward it wasn't really up in the air for you. Is that correct?
Yeah, of course. I mean, anybody who's listening to this podcast knows what decision I would make if I was the general manager put into that position.
Yeah. And so we had a similar decision here. We both take Abdul Carter. Now let's get to the second round pick, 34. Have you made any trades yet? Have you considered any trades?
I did consider trades, but there were none to consider. But the first thing I did was I looked over at 30. I was like, oh, there are a lot of people I like. Tyler Williams was available. Tyler Booker was available. There was a decent chunk of players we've discussed on this podcast for the New York Giants at 34 that were available for me to select. So I was like, oh, let's see what the trades are. Big old fat 0, Dan. A 0. No trade offers for pick 34. So I sat tight. I thought a lot about the New York Giants over recent memory, and I went with a high floor selection. I went with Tyler Booker, the offensive guard out of Alabama. I went in that direction because of the depth at interior defensive line and the sheer fact that I don't know what the long-term solution past Greg Van Roten is. And I don't think having Greg Van Roten on this roster puts the Giants in a position where they're going to say, you know what, Tyler Booker, we really like his tape. We really like his mentality. This guy could start for us for maybe 10, 15 years, but we have Greg Van Roten. So, we're not going to go guard when we know interior offensive line has plagued the New York Giants for the better half of a decade now. Go out and get a very quality interior offensive lineman with a mean streak, a tone setter. I get it. He had like a 3.8 RAS. He tested terribly. But as we've said several times, this to me is an Orlando Brown type of pick for the interior offensive line. Somebody who would start this year, relegating Greg Van Roten to be a swing interior offensive lineman and possibly someone who could take John Michael Schmitz's role if John Michael Schmitz continues to suck. And then you also have John Runyon, who has 2 more years left on his deal. Tyler Booker could possibly kick over to left guard once he's gone if the Giants don't retain him, because Tyler Booker played extensively at left guard, but he also had some experience as a freshman at right guard. But to me, this is a captain, man. This is somebody who is going to be that stalwart on your offensive line. I want to beef up the trenches. I want to get tough. I want the New York Giants to be able to run the football and control the clock for once. And Tyler Booker will allow you to do that. So this is a safer pick, but one that I think does improve the New York Giants' ability to sustain offense, something they just have not done for the last 6 years.
Nick, we've been doing these dueling 7-round mocks pre-drafts for years now, since we started doing this thing. I don't think we've ever had the same picks in rounds 1 and 2, but we do here. We have the same picks for the first time.
Easier this year, I think, though. Because of pick 3. Pick 3 is basically a given right now. Unless we didn't see the same way with Shedeur or we traded. That's the only way. We're not gonna be, hey, I'm gonna go Mason Graham. That's not something that we're more.
Some people do. Some people like Graham there, though.
You and I think we knew at this point that wasn't going to be a direction that we were going to go. And
that was clear to me after watching his tape. I like Graham. I don't like him anywhere near the way of Carter and Hunter personally. And I know some people are just looking to get this certain position there, which is fine. But I'm trying to get the player. As far as this pick for me, I consider Tyleik Williams. I think my rationale was similar to yours, Nick. I feel good about the interior defensive line that I'm going to get later in this draft, specifically at 65. Hopefully I'm right. We'll find out if that's the case. And I was considering how much I like the evaluation we have of Tyler Booker, and I have as well of Tyler Booker. I really believe this guy was one of the most fun guys I watch on the interior offensive line in pass protection. I think he's not only super high Q in pass protection, those days of us passing up stunts and not having any idea where to be are gone when you put him on the roster. I think he has a really good base and lower half when he's in pass protection. And I think he drops those hips, and I just love the way that he blocks. And that doesn't even talk about what he offers in the run game. And sure, the RAS was bad, right? And this is potentially a pitfall in both of our analysis, Nick. And Nick has left the screen, but Nick will be back in a second. And this is potentially a pitfall in both of our analysis. We could both be overrating what we saw on tape with Tyler Booker, and that's perfectly fine. The RAS could be, wow, he's not an athlete at the NFL level. We didn't know it, and he's a waste of a pick and a bust. I'm willing to admit that. I think it's more likely that this happens more than people believe at picks like 34. With that said, I think that he makes up for that lack of supposed athleticism, which is testing athleticism, and doesn't show up as poorly on film, I believe, and you would agree with Nick. I don't think it's as much of an issue on film or an issue at all at times. With his length, with his arm length, with his wingspan, with his pop, with his hand size. And the way we're looking at it, I think, by making this pick is you could say, well, we have Greg Van Roten. We have John Runyon. We want to put Evan Neal at right guard. We have John Michael Schmitz. That's 4 guys for 3 interior offensive line spots. How the hell are you taking interior offensive linemen here when you are passing up guys who could start right away for this team? But we're looking at this thing long term, in my opinion, at least. And I think Booker is the most important player long term, and I think he could start right away as well.
And he's better than everybody that you just mentioned.
Better than everyone we just mentioned, literally all 4.
That's my reason. That and the long term solution as well. And I know, man. Look, I know a lot of Giant fans get PTSD because they see the Crimson Tide big offensive lineman who had poor testing, even though Evan Neal didn't test deliberately. And then they look at, oh, well, we drafted Will Hernandez at the top of the second round. How'd that work out? I think he's a better player than we experienced here with the New York Giants. But that's regardless of the fact. I'm throwing all that shit out of my mind. This is a separate player. You got to view this in a vacuum, right? And Tyler Booker is a good football player and one that I want on the New York Giants if he's available for the Giants at 34. There were certain interior defensive linemen, if they fell, I would have took the interior defensive linemen. None of them fell. I don't think they'll fall on draft day either, but I'm also not of the mindset that Tyler Booker will be available. He might be because of the testing. And then it comes down to the Giants. Do they want to overlook the testing? They'll have better knowledge on that than I will. But just based off the tape, I really appreciated and loved what I saw from Tyler Booker. And again, dude, 11-inch hands are just like insane. Almost a
It's what
35
every offensive line coach wants. Like, you tell Carm Brasillo he gets Tyler Booker, he's going to be the happiest guy you can imagine on draft day. I don't think Tyler Booker should fall to 34. It's part of why I took him here, because I feel like I'm getting a top 20 player in this class at 34, and I don't feel that way with some of the other picks. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say he also went to the same high school as Evan Neal.
Oh, wow. You don't want to hear that. I mean,
but IMG Academy is like one of the best. It's one of the best schools in the nation.
This is a perfect example. Don't scout the helmet.
Exactly.
Don't scout the player here, please. And we are doing that with Tyler Booker. And you mentioned it, but I think it's really important to mention. He has an insanely high football IQ, and it's not just something that the coaches say. I mean, we're talking about a captain, the guy that everyone loves, the guy that brings that locker room together, like all the best things you can hear from the coaches and from his teammates from that character standpoint and that leadership standpoint. But you also see it. That's the point. Like, you want it to actually play out. And when you watch his tape and you watch him against these stunts and against these games that the defensive linemen are playing, he's the guy communicating. He's the guy who's picking it up. He's the guy who knows where he's supposed to be. And I love that about his game in pass pro. But it's the one-on-one pass pro reps that I really like the most. But I also think there's a lot of upside in the run game, given what you said, the hand size, the length. I just think this dude would be so nice to have on the Giants offensive line. I'd be really excited if we can get Booker at 34.
Absolutely. Let's move on to pick 65. All right.
What you got? I hope we finally have a different player here.
I mean, we do, because I traded.
So, shit.
I picked up the phone and I called that new young buck Jacksonville Jaguar general manager, just like it was draft day, like I'm Kevin Costner or something. I called him up and I was like, hey, I know you want 65. You got 70. Why don't you give me pick 107 in the 4th round and I'll give you 65? And he agreed. So he jumped up and I traded back.
I like that deal. I should have done that.
If it was available to you, yeah, absolutely. I mean, drop 5, pick up 107, and there was a lot of guys I liked at 107.
Right.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Look, we all love to work out. The summer's coming around. You want to look good in your bathing suit. But in order to enhance your workout, you want to go and use MitoPure from Timeline. This is a great product. When I started using it, it makes me feel stronger, gives me more energy. I recover quicker. You know, I'm in my 30s. I still have the energy to work out. And if you want that energy, you really should give Timeline's MitoPure a shot and work it into your routine. This, the great year of 2025, is your year to be the best, most energized, most revitalized you. MitoPure promotes cellular renewal and mitochondrial health to address common signs of aging at the root. MitoPure is the research-backed innovation that unlocks your fullest potential. Timeline is offering 10% off your order of MitoPure right now. So go to timeline.com/banter. It's timeline.com/banter. That's TIMELINE. So I was hoping, and you know what? There's a little bit of, you look at PFF's rankings and you could be like, oh, hey, this guy ranked here. So maybe I can get him. There's a little bit of that.
We try not to do that. We can definitely game the system. You can easily game the PFF mock draft simulators, so try not to.
We try not to. We try to make it as realistic as possible, because I was considering Tyler Shuck here, but Tyler Shuck,
the simulator lets you get him in like round 6 in this thing.
So I said, you know what? I'm going to overlook Shuck. If he's available at 99, I'll take him. But at pick 70 in the 3rd round, after the trade, I did go with Alfred Collins, the defensive lineman out of Texas. And we've talked a lot about him. Did you get him too?
I got him at 65.
I just feel like you got to stop copying me on this, dude. But
I didn't see your draft at all, bud.
I know. No, but I think it was judging by the board, and I don't know if the board's going to fall this way, he was the obvious pick for the Giants based on the draft that I already did. Going offensive lineman, where I went offensive lineman at 34, the defensive lineman I had at my disposal, I don't think I had Darius Alexander. It was Omar Norman Lott, and it was Tyleik Williams. Those were the two, and I wouldn't go Lott there. I would go Tyleik Williams. And I considered Tyleik, but I looked down the board and I saw the Alfred Collinses of the world. I saw some of the other interior defensive linemen. I said, I can wait, especially seeing that Alfred Collins was ranked in like the 80s or wherever the hell he was ranked. So I was sitting there at pick 70 and I said, all right, I'm going to go with Alfred Collins. We know this guy can 2-gap. He can play gap and a half. He's going to thrive in one-on-one situations against the run. Doesn't offer all that much as a pass rusher. Needs to needs to really develop more pass rushing moves. He's kind of stiff though. He's just more of that fire hydrant that you're putting there and you're saying, good luck moving it duo block or inside zone block. And he's just incredibly smart when it comes to splitting double teams and presenting his numbers to the running back. So Collins at 70, and I'm thankful that he was there. And I'm glad that the Giants, in this theoretical situation with me as the general manager, were able to upgrade their interior defensive line like I've been talking about for about 2 years now.
Yeah, and if you guys want a full breakdown of everything we think about Alfred Collins, listen to our top 30 visits podcast on the defense a few podcasts ago. But just to reiterate on a few things Nick said, I think it's important to note, yes, this is how I drafted. I just sat at 65 and drafted Alfred Collins. And yes, this is how
I don't think that podcast has dropped yet, by the way, but it's okay.
Whenever it drops, you'll listen to that. This is that this time of year, we're recording 2-3 a day and just scheduling them out and figuring it out. But with that said, Nick gave a little bit of analysis. 6'5", 337, can two gap, can destroy, stack and shed and destroy straight up blocks. It's just an absolute beast in the run game. And part of this is yes, when we both went Booker, we're probably more likely to go D tackle at 65. I think Alfred Collins will be on the board at 65 in the real draft, not just this mock, because he doesn't have much pass rushing upside. What you're getting out of him is somebody for a specific role, and it may not be an every down role. I don't expect him to play passing downs. I don't care. This role is so important to the Giants right now and so important to me that I don't care. And knowing that I think he's going to be on the board at 65 in the real draft and in this mock, I was more likely to pass on Tyleik Williams at 34, who I liked a lot, especially when someone like Booker was on the board. If Booker wasn't on the board, it might have been different for me, Nick. But I did take Alfred Collins here. He was circled on my list. I was excited to get him here. I did not want to trade. I did not want to risk it. You did a good job risking it and getting an extra pick. You did better than me because you still got Collins and you got that extra pick where you can just have fun with it.
Yeah. So what kind of role would you say? Is this what kind of dinner roll? Is this a brochet? Is this ciabatta? Is this a California roll? Is it a tuna roll, Dan?
What roll? The roll for Alfred Collins?
Yeah.
Oh no, this is a fat sandwich on a roll on a bag. This is a Rutgers, New Brunswick style fat sandwich.
Oh, that's what we're getting. You talking about the food truck down there?
Yeah, the food truck. That's the grease trucks. This is a grease truck roll fat sandwich.
This is a grease truck roll fat sandwich next to Dexter Lawrence, which is whatever role he freaking wants to be, dude. Whatever.
Exactly. You want to put 700 pounds on your D line for the Giants next to each other. Put Alfred Collins and Dexter Lawrence next to each other. Not just 700 pounds, 6'5" length, huge hands, arms. It's as good as it. If we have those two and Abdul Carter, in addition to Thibodeau and Burns, that's insane. Dude. That's what you want in the NFL. You want to win in the trenches. You want to win on both sides of the ball in the trenches. We now have Booker and Collins added to the trenches, which are already trending up in the defense side of the ball.
And if you're running this even front, you could put Collins as the one shade. He'll thrive as a one shade and put Dex as the 3.
Oh, Dex,
and then Burns and Carter or Burns and Thibodeau, and it's just you can just get so wide, and you're stressing the angles of the offensive lineman. Where the offensive lineman I got to kick out there, I got to cut off that angle. You kidding me? Dream about it, bro. That'd be amazing.
They'll win to that. They'll win that angle a lot too. Yeah. Alfred Collins is long as fuck.
Exactly. Have Collins attack that center. And now with the 3 technique, if you have Carter on Dex's side, they're going to need more help over there. Oh, yeah. But then you're putting Dex in this situation, or you're putting that guard in a situation where he's going to have to cover Dex possibly one-on-one, dude. Unfair.
No guard in the NFL is going to cover Dex one-on-one. And I don't think many tackles, in my opinion at least, are going to be able to stop Abdul Carter from bending the edge and getting around them or spinning back inside. And as he develops a wide variety of moves, he's going to become even more unstoppable. Abdul Carter, I'm so excited. I think he's going to be the pick, Nick. I don't think it's just our mock. I'm feeling more and more confident he will be the pick. I just feel look, if they definitely were taking Sanders at 3, would they have done all these private workouts with these other quarterbacks, dude? It just doesn't feel that way. If they were locked in, I feel like they kind of just be locked in on Sanders. I don't know though, but who knows? I think our drafts are hopefully about to diverge here because I have a pick coming up at 99 that we have not discussed for 1 second on any of our pods yet. And I'm excited to talk about him because he is my guy in this class. So first, let's get to your pick. I believe you now have 99, 104, and 105. Excellent job by you. I should have traded back and gotten Collins too.
105 and 107, but still very
okay. You did it. Oh, you swapped. Oh, 107 instead of 104. Yeah. I see what you got. Yep. All right. So let's start with what you did at 99.
Yeah, 99. I ended up going with Tyler Shuck, who I don't think is going to be available at 99. That's the Louisville quarterback, Tyler Shuck. Developmental guy at this range of the draft. I think he could be more than that. Love his physical tools. Dan and I have talked pretty extensively about this 26-year-old prospect who had, I think, 2 broken collarbones and a broken fibula. So he has that on his track record. But when you watch him throw the football, he understands how to put touch on it. He can vary up the pacing on the passes. He can layer it over the linebackers. I was very surprised by his accuracy outside of the numbers, where he's putting it like directly where it needs to be to avoid the defensive leverage. It shows a high amount of processing and a high amount of arm talent. So I really like this pick at this point of the draft. Again, I think this is a guy you're going to have to get at 65 if the Giants want to select him. And even then, I'm a little skeptical if he'll be around. Depends on how the rest of the NFL views him. But at 99, give me Tyler Shuck. I could have waited another 2 rounds, but I just felt like I'd have been cheating at that point. And even at 99, somewhat cheating.
Yeah. And I'll say this about Tyler Shuck. One thing I love, and listen to our, I don't know if it dropped yet. I think it did already.
The offensive one did.
It did. Yeah, I already seen it. The offensive top 30 visits podcast is where we discussed Shuck in detail. For me with Shuck, one thing I love that you said, Nick, I love that you said, because this is what happens when you actually watch the tape. You notice these things, those outside the number throws. He throws them better, in my opinion, from an accuracy standpoint and a ball placement standpoint than maybe anyone in this class, besides maybe Cam Ward. And I don't even know. I think you could put it up there. Like you said, he understands the leverage of the defensive back on those throws. He understands where to put the football away from the coverage, and so the receiver can catch it in stride away from it. That is so important to me. Nick, I don't want to say soured. I started somewhat high on Shuck, but I just am not. So he was on the board for me at 99. He was on the board all the way down the draft. And I didn't draft him really at all, mostly because after this range, Nick, I said I would have felt unfair drafting him. I think this was the pick right here, right, Nick? We're at 99. Am I taking a position player or am I taking Tyler Shuck? And I think that's like kind of the cutoff for when we can make this fair, as far because it is possible he can fall to 99, given his age, given his injury history. I don't think it's impossible he can fall to 99. I still had guys I wanted over Shuck, so I didn't take him at 99 or 105. And my main thing with Shuck, Nick, is I actually worry more about the ceiling with Shuck than the floor, if that makes some kind of sense, based on some of the traits we discussed. What worries me most about Shuck, and this worry came as I just decided to watch a lot more of Shuck. So I would say the quarterbacks I watched the most in this class, by far, Ward and Sanders, as far as games go. And then it would probably be Shuck and Milroe next. And I went back and watched a lot more of them in the last couple of weeks to try to get a feel, because the Giants have shown interest in both. And what scares me most about Shuck, Nick, is one trait we always said is so important with Eli Manning. We said it with Jones too. Jones, actually, this was a good trade of Daniel Jones. Wow, Daniel Schneider saying something good about Jones, but this is a good trade about Daniel Jones and Sanders. Sanders has a trait too. It's that, and I don't know what the term is for it. You may have the term better than I do, Nick, but it's that willingness to kind of stay in where you are in the pocket, throw the football when you know you're about to get clobbered by a defensive player. I don't personally see that with Shuck. I see a lot of the times he's doing everything in his power to avoid taking that hit.
I've seen that too.
And that really scares me from a ceiling standpoint, because as we've talked about with Sanders and every quarterback we ever discuss, shit is going to get a lot faster in the NFL. Those pockets are going to get a lot muddier. This is why I'm worried about Sanders. Like, he's not going to have the ability to hitch into every throw. He's got to have the arm talent to make those throws off the back foot, which I think Shuck has. Definitely. But is he willing to do that while also about to take a massive hit and knowing he's going to take that hit? Or is he going to throw it away? I mean, he was like, I think it was something crazy, like 1/5 of all his throws were throwaways or some wild stat, but he led, I think, the NCAA in throwaways, Tyler Shuck. He just got the ball out of bounds or kind of sometimes threw it up.
I think a lot of those were him just not taking sacks, though. Like a lot of those were smart plays by Shuck.
Yeah, going through the progression. Yeah. I agree. A lot of them were, but
getting out of the pocket and then just saying, hey, I'm about to get, I can't get to the line of scrimmage. I'm about to take a 4-yard sack. Let me just toss it out of bounds.
Yeah.
To your point, I concur. And it's something that I had negative in his notes. And it's not something that I think it happened all the time. There were times where people were bearing down on him. He stood tall, threw it, took the hit, fell to the deck. But there were also times, and not an insignificant amount of times, like, a handful of times a game, where somebody is looping or twisting into the A gap, and you see him throw and then just completely like shy away. And as he's throwing, his feet are turning, and
exactly.
And honestly, surprisingly, the ball was still kind of accurate.
Yeah, because he's got arm talent, real arm talent, like an actual live arm.
Yes, which was wild. Like, I didn't necessarily have it. I didn't think the arm or the accuracy was affected by this, but it was like, oh, mechanically him throwing this ball, it's just like him just doing it with his arm and he's turning his feet and he's only doing it to avoid the contact. Whereas to Jones's credit, he would stand in there, keep his feet, his eyes, his hips aligned, and then throw an inaccurate pass and get annihilated.
And then throw an inaccurate pass. Yeah, he just can't throw a football. Like Tyler Shuck has arm talent, so he could actually do it despite falling away. I just don't know how much of that like if that's going to be a problem at the NFL level.
I hear you. I hear you.
That's something that scares me the most about him. But I'm also, as I watch more of him and I thought about this a little more, I think the 4.63 thing, like him running a 4.63, I think he has that level of athleticism, which is great. But what worries me about him is the athletic side of what worries me about him is a similar side of what worries me about Shedeur. It's the lateral athleticism, the lateral agility, as far as can you get out of these sacks and can you get out of these pockets? That scared me as I watch more of him. Just like with Sanders, he just not escaping these Big 12 pockets and he's running into sacks. And now Shuck, to his credit, like you said, does a great job of just getting faster through the progression and getting the ball out of bounds or finding a way to like scramble a little and then like throw it out of bounds. But at the NFL level, do you have those extra ticks? Do you have that extra time to get out of those situations? Do you have enough lateral agility to do it? I was not sold on that with him. So I guess for me, what it comes down to is like my feelings on quarterback. If I don't see a lot of upside, and again, I do see some with him. I want to make that clear. Like you said, there's a real live arm here. Not many people have an actual live arm in this draft. This is a live arm. This is real arm down. This is what it looks like. And he actually was, like you said, the best ball placement outside the numbers and understanding leverage. But it's a ceiling thing for me. And I still think there's great players on the board here that I wanted personally. So I passed on Tyler Shuck. And with my 99th pick, I took a player, Nick, that's my guy in this class. He's a very controversial player. A lot of people think he sucks. A lot of people think you don't draft this guy. He's going to suck at the NFL level, blah, blah, blah. His stats are fake. And it's a player we haven't talked about yet. It's Harold Fannin, the tight end out of Bowling Green. And I can't
even buy a beer yet, right? Isn't he like
20? Yeah, right. And that's people talk about him like he's maxed out or like he's not good. I'm like, dude, he's still young, by the way. I understand the level of competition he played against. And by the way, he's a tight end who's basically a big slot, I would call him, is the better way to say it. So we'll be drafting him as the Giants to be a weapon on this offense. And I think about what Dable has done so far in his tenure. And he's found interesting roles for tight ends, specifically these kind of tight ends. Look, he traded for Darren Waller, had a specific role for him. We saw it start to play out in training camp in that one preseason drive. And then he just got injured and it didn't work out. But think back to some of the games Waller played with the Giants. He was open a lot. We talked about, oh my God, he's open and the ball's way behind him. Or, oh my God, he's open and he has to reach out for this ball. And now it's a drop somehow. But it's obviously just a bad throw. But like he was open a lot. And Dable found ways to get that type of talent open. And he's done it with lesser players. Cager, right? Like he found a role for Cager. We had some of those, remember breaking down tape of Cager and the kid who went to, that I liked, who went to the Bengals after us, Tanner Hudson, finding different ways to get him open. Oh, here's wide open on this wheel route. Oh, Jones missed him, but like he got him open. And so I think about that role and I'm like, I kind of think Harold Fannin Jr. could play in this role. And one player I was reminded a lot of when watching Harold Fannin Jr.
Let me guess.
I want to see if you get this one.
Travis Beckham.
No, but that's, I get why you would say that. It's just a Wisconsin thing. And this player hasn't worked out so far in the NFL, even though I was super high on him because I think his team doesn't know how to use him. But I think his profile is a lot like Dalton Kincaid out of Utah, and they won in a lot of the same ways. They're just savvy-ass route runners who just understand how to uncover themselves, understand zone, understand where to be, and they move really well. And some things about Harold Fannin that really surprised me. He had a year 2 breakout versus Dalton Kincaid's year 4. Credit Jacob Gibbs for these stats. His breakout came at 20 years old. 23 was Kincaid. He was an older prospect. 1,555 receiving yards as a 20-year-old last year. Harold Fannin Jr. That's insane. He was the whole offense for them, and he was dominant. And he had, Nick, the 3rd best 3-cone time of all tight ends, rivaling Sam Laporta, who broke out, and a player we liked last year. I'm forgetting his name now, the kid from who Washington drafted. What's his name? The tight end Washington drafted.
Ben Sinnott.
Yes, Ben Sinnott. He had an elite 3-cone. So while his 40 wasn't great, his 3-cone, his change of direction is elite, and it shows up on tape. And he had 11 catches for 137 yards and a touchdown against Penn State. And he was lined up on sometimes against the corner. So he dominated against good competition. Great vertical jump, great broad jump. Did a good job there. So really, when I watched him on film, I just thought he was a dominant player. I think some people have compared him, Nick, to Isaiah Likely. I think he's a much better player than Likely. I think the Kincaid comparison really stood out to me, and it's really one that I can, in a lot of ways, agree with. Also went 8 for 145. I had this in my notes for a touchdown against A&M. So when he did get a chance to face better competition, still dominated, right? That's 19 catches for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns against Penn State and A&M. 2 good defenses, 2 of probably the top 20 defenses. So I don't know if he'll ever be a player that people love because of some of the traits, because, he doesn't look the prototype. He doesn't run a great 40 time, but man, just watch him and you see it. You'll see this guy is a playmaker. And I think Brian Daboll can find a way to make him a really big factor in the offense really early on. So he's one of my guys in this class, and I would love to get him at 99.
Yeah, Harold Fannon's beast. Bowling Green tight end. Theo Johnson, Harold Fannin, 12 personnel package. And you could bring in Chris Manhertz as well. You got Daniel Bellinger. Be a solid tight end room. And I agree. I think Brian Daboll wants a pass catcher like this. I think he envisions Theo Johnson being something like that. But Theo is also more than that, because his skill as a blocker and just the fact that he's like 270 pounds. Harold Fannin has so much more upside, though, I think, than even a Theo Johnson, even though Theo.
I do too, actually.
Theo blew up the combine. I never really thought Theo Johnson played to his athletic ability, whereas Harold Fannin does play very athletically, if that makes sense. He's a little stiff maybe as a route runner, but like he once he gets the football in his hands, like this dude can leap over people, similar to Theo.
He's unconventional as a route runner too, which I like about him. Like, I feel like it's why it's part of who he is. And one more stat on this, Nick.
An explosive guy.
What'd you say? Explosive guy. Career yards per route run among all tight ends, only filtering in versus Power 5 conferences, taking out anytime they played bad teams. Harold Fannin Jr. has been the best at 3.25 yards per route run. And by the way, just for those who don't know, who aren't like in the fantasy football community, yards per route run has been one of the most sticky metrics in predicting fantasy football breakouts and success for the wide receiver and tight end position. He was 3.25 yards per route run against only Power 5 competition. Brock Bowers, 2.65. Kyle Pitts, who was great at Florida, 2.48. Mark Andrews, 2.44. Colston Loveland, 2.25. So like this guy was so uber productive. Career first downs per route run at NCAA level. Fannin Jr., 13.8%, number 1. Career receptions of 15 plus air yards at the collegiate level. Likely was ahead of him at 37, who I compared him to in some ways. Brock Bowers, 36. Then comes Fannin Jr. at 29, receptions of 15 plus air yards in his college career. And he's 20 years, he broke out at 20 years old. Like, I just don't really get the perception of him. I think he's one of the best values, and I just think at 99, this is a slam dunk for me.
I don't really know what the perception is of him. Like
that he should
reference that a few times. Like people
think he's like overrated, and they think he's got like a bad NFL prospect. From what I've heard. Yeah. All right. Because of some of the things you brought up, the stiffness, the lack of 40 time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think he's a good football player.
Because he's probably also not like a traditional Y tight end. I think that's also why it's like, where do we use him?
And it does remind me a lot of Isaiah Likely. Likely, when he came out of Coastal Carolina, he's a little bit bigger, I think, than Harold Fannin Jr., but a lot of people are like, he can't really block. He's just going to be his weapon. What is he? I think we see what he is now. And
anytime he gets a chance, he breaks. He does, like, anytime he gets snaps, he does great with Baltimore. So I like that pick. Where did you go? Let's let you do 105 and 107, because I think it's a combo of picks where you're like, I had to consider things.
Yeah, I just had to. You're right. I just saw your list in the chat, and we went with the same guy at 105. So I think we should,
because he probably should be on the board at 105.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. This isn't just like Dan and I being like, oh, we see everything exactly the same.
No.
Kyle Williams from Washington State, the wide receiver, should not be available at pick 105. He was a glaring, in my opinion, glaring, just you have to select him because he's so freaking talented. Kyle Williams, like spoiler alert, this is my guy. He was one of my favorite receivers. I think I watched him in January. I'm not sure if I gave him the Dan Schneier text. I might have given him the Dan Schneier text. With like, this is the guy you need to watch because he's very good. And I don't listen to a ton of draft content, but I've heard a decent amount of chatter about this wide receiver class. Kyle Williams' name is never really too involved in that chatter. So I think he's just being overlooked. But when you watch, the guy's fluid. Get him the football in space, and he's going to be able to create yards after the catch. I think he was like top 5 in Yak, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. He's not the biggest guy. He's like 6 foot, 186 pounds. I think he has a very high ceiling as a route runner, albeit he's a little bit raw at the moment when it comes to running routes, but smart against zone coverage, can defeat man coverage just based off of his athletic traits. The one frustrating thing is he drops the football. He had 21 career drops. So that's something that I can overlook when you can do everything else pretty damn well. And he's also like a contested catch guy, despite the fact that he's smaller. So everything about Kyle Williams' game and his movement, I'm not saying he's Kadarius Toney out there when it comes to movement, but he has that type of fluidity and that type of joystick ability where it's like, oh, the football's in his hands, sudden movement, immediacy, urgent. Everything's urgent about him. And I absolutely appreciate quarterbacks who are like that. I think Kyle Williams will be off the board far before this, dude. I can see the Tennessee Titans going out of their way to select Kyle Williams early just because he is the former teammate of Cam Ward and because he's and because he is so talented. So I'm a big fan of him, and him at 105 is just too easy for me to click.
I'll touch on him and we'll get to your 107. Kyle Williams, the wide receiver, was also my pick as well. Again, Nick kind of broke it down, right? I just look at this as an absolute best case scenario for the Giants, best player available. I agree with you, Nick. I actually like this profile wide receiver. So I'll say, let's break it down like this. When I watch this type of player who has legit 4.4 speed, when you watch him on tape, he's fluid with 4.4 speed, gets in and out of his breaks. These are the type of receivers. That's why when Nick says the Dan Schneider text, what he means is what he texted me last year when he watched Malik Neighbors for me. He's like, dude, this is a Dan Schneider kind of receiver. That's what he means by that text. It's my kind of receiver. And I have a type at receiver. I always will. It's the fluid guys who get in and out of their breaks. And because I believe that's how you win at the NFL level. Yes, size is good. Contested catch is good. The Romo Dunze types, that works too. It's just not my style of receiver. I think you're better off betting on these types of guys like Kyle Williams. So when you talk about what you said, which is true, we haven't heard a lot of hype from him about him in this wide receivers class. I like him over a lot of the receivers that are talked above him. Like I just have him ranked higher than a lot of those receivers. And it's just my type of receiver. So I get why the NFL might let him fall. I don't think this far, Nick, but I get why the NFL might let him fall. Small school, not the biggest receiver. Where are we going to play him? Is he only a slot? I think he might be able to play outside. Maybe it's just a slot, though, in the NFL. Some people might have that concern and for that reason drop him. Because you look at guys like Higgins and all these guys that have like potential, and even like a Pat Bryant, for example. Some team might want a Pat Bryant over Kyle Williams because they're like, I can play him at X. I don't know where I'm going to play. I only play Kyle Williams at slot. I don't really care about any of that. I want to get the smooth mover who's fluid in and out of his breaks with legit 4.4 speed, awesome tape, and just a great receiver. And I'm getting that in Kyle Williams. So with these two picks, I went playmaker, Nick, at 99 and 105 after going trench with my first three premium picks. This is how I like to play a draft, to be honest with you. I don't really want to take trench guys this late because I don't really believe in them, especially on the offensive line. But playmakers always can make impacts with these kind of picks. We see it at receiver and running back and tight end with Fannin, who I consider more of a kind of a receiver for us, just a weapon, over and over and over in different draft classes. So I was super excited with my 99 and 105. Let me get your 107.
My 107 is another Nick Filato favorite. We haven't really discussed him much on the podcast. Watched him early in the process and loved him. Haven't heard much about him either. And that's Noah Williams from the University of Cal. He is a cornerback. He ran a 4.5 40-yard dash at the combine. It's going to drop him a little bit. And I don't think he's slow necessarily, but I have slight concerns about speed. But other than that, this guy understands leverage, positioning. When he is mid-pointing, which means he's splitting the 3-2 and 3-by-1 sets, and knows exactly where to be to eliminate both those targets. And I believe he's explosive enough, maybe not straight line speed when it comes to long speed, but explosive enough to click and close and break on the catch point, which does help when you are mid-pointing as a cornerback. Solid hit stick strength, man. This is one of the best tackling cornerbacks in the entire draft. He's very aggressive too. He's going to try to attack the catch point. He's going to take those risks. I don't mind that. Smart zone defender, sticky in man coverage. Again, the speed, that's one thing, but sticky in man coverage has, I would say, enough fluidity and short area movement skills to be successful in that role. And he also has heavy press upside. He only allowed like a 48.5% catch rate. I think that was like fifth best in all of college football of corners who played at least 80% of their team's snaps, right? So this is somebody who does not allow you to catch the football. And I'm getting him at pick 107 in the fourth round. I think he has true starter upside. I don't think the Giants necessarily need a cornerback, but if someone like this falls at a value, I'm all about selecting them. He's going to be more than likely an outside guy, but I'm cool with that as well because Cordell Flott might not be a Giant beyond this season, and we don't know what's going on with Tay-Bag. So I want more depth there, and Noah Williams fits that role perfectly for me.
I love this pick for you, Nick, because you take a guy who's your guy. You also understand the importance at this pick and basically all picks, in my opinion, of the draft of taking the best player that you believe in rather than saying, I need to now fill this need. I need to now
ball hawk too, man. He had like 14 career interceptions, which goes
right, which is a lot at the college
yeah,
level. That's crazy amount.
it goes right along with what Joe Schoen and Brian Dable have tried to do this entire offseason, is just get guys who steal the football, especially the other man guys too. I know we play a lot of match and a lot of quarters, palms, things like that, but that doesn't mean man coverage is insignificant. Like, man coverage is still very significant.
Exactly. And then you could say that about every defense in the NFL. No defense is playing. No, there's no defense where man coverage is not important in the NFL. And I just love, like I was saying, I love this pick for you because you're doing it right. You're taking a player you believe in rather than filling a need down a draft board. And by the way, like you said, corner is a bigger need than people realize, not just for what you said. And I like how you broke it down, right? We're not sure about Taybank's future. We're not sure about Flott's future. And as far as this year goes, or as far as the future goes, what about this year, right? Like, we're not sure these guys can play football at a high level. They didn't really do it consistently last year, and we might need another option at some point. B, what about injuries? This is one of the highest injury rate positions any of the skill positions are. So we need depth. Like, yes, we got a Debo. That was awesome. But we didn't really do much outside of that at the corner position this offseason. And so we need depth. We need someone like this as well to potentially play this year. So I love this pick. We'll get to something on this later because it fits with my draft. But great pick here. I'm excited about this one for you. And now at this point, Nick, you've built your draft out similar to mine just because we had the first 3 picks, but you also found a way to get a quarterback of the future for yourself, and you got a corner of the potential future for us. I like what you're doing here with a playmaker and Kyle Williams as well. Now, do you have the same next pick as me, 154?
I do, yes.
Okay. Let me know what you did at 154.
Yes, I went with a running back, and it was Kyle Monangai. Been talking a lot about Kyle Monangai. Not the fastest, not necessarily the strongest, but a dog as a running back, man. A decisive dog who runs hard as hell, average 3.33 yards after contact, has 178 missed tackles forced through his career, and I think he had 78 runs over 10 yards. This is somebody who can get to the second level. Like, Rutgers just relied on Monangai. Like, watching Rutgers football, you're like, who the hell is that running back? And a lot of people are like, oh, he's like Isaiah Pacheco. I can see those similarities, but there's just something about this guy where I think he complements what Tyrone Tracy Jr. and Devin Singletary do not have. I think he just complements them so well. Like, whatever the Giants have in those two, Kyle Monangai complements that just because he is one of those hard running. He's short. He's like 5'8", maybe like 212. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. Not the biggest.
5'8". You nailed it.
Not the biggest guy in the world again, but holy crap, is he a controlled runner, and he has controlled aggression as well. Good footwork, great vision, can operate in a zone, also can operate in a man blocking scheme, power gap counter. I think he'd be great in duo. Get behind those big offensive linemen and just run, dude, hard as hell. So I've been a Monangai fan for a while now, since I basically started watching Rutgers football this past season, and getting him and the pick 154 is completely fine with me.
So Monangai is definitely my guy as well, Nick. I've talked about him a lot. You've talked about him. I'll say this to start, just on the. So first of all, he had back-to-back years of 1,200 plus yards, 2,500 yards rushing in the last two seasons, each of the last two seasons, or combined last season, with 21 touchdowns, averaging 9.7 yards per carry somehow in 2023, which is actually insane now that I look at. Or no, that was 5.21 and then 5 yards per carry, including all the yards after contact. All the stats are great, but I think what's clear, and you broke it down, is when you watch Rutgers football, and I actually watched a decent amount of Rutgers football last year, just hanging out with my brother. He's the whole offense. He's the entire offense, and he was able to move the offense despite them having what I would consider to be one of the most pathetic options at quarterback I've ever seen at a college level. I'll really believe, I hate to say that. He's a nice guy, I'm sure. He's a good dude. But they literally they couldn't throw beyond 10 yards air yards. So every defense knew this guy wasn't even attempting passes. It was like a stick throw every time. So it was crazy. You just had defenses just loading boxes, playing every possible fun front to stop the run. And this guy still produced over 5 yards a carry despite that. That to me is crazy. I think he's got great footwork. I think he does a good job of reading his blocks. He's everything I like in a running back as well. One more thing, though, that I thought was really important that we didn't mention, just because it's been a problem for the Giants last year, at least with one of our running backs, with Tyrone Tracy. He had 707 offensive touches in his career and 0 fumbles. That's unreal right there. That to me stands out for a team that we need, or for a team that needs that kind of security.
Gable's going to love that.
Gable's going to love that. Everything about him is great. The one thing I would push back on is the Pacheco comparison. I'm not saying you made that. You said that people have said that, because Monangai ran a 4.60, and Pacheco's like that kind of fast. I don't think he's Pacheco level in the open field. Bang, he hits it and goes.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree with that.
And I know you don't think that either. But if he was that, he'd probably be one of these like top 5 backs or top 10 backs because he's got basically everything else. Great low center of gravity for his runs. He was on the board here for me at 154. I almost took him. It was between him and one other player. And it's funny how even and similar our drafts have played out. I think it kind of shows, Nick, just how how not only this class is set up, but how the Giants have set up their roster.
I think that's an excellent point. I also think it's PFF's grading that has
maybe
led to some of these.
I think these running backs, at least. Yeah, you're probably right with Kyle Williams, but Alfred Collins, I think, could be on the board.
Yeah,
and Tyler Booker could be on the board at 34.
I agree.
So I think Kyle Williams is probably the only stupid one. So,
but like the fact that like I can, just to be like fully honest, I can look at like where PFF has a certain guy graded and be like, I can get it with my next pick.
I didn't do that, to be honest with you, but I know that you can do that and you can rig the system. I didn't try. I'm not saying you rigged it. I'm just saying you could see it on the as you do the draft. You're not rigging anything. You're just like it's in your eyes. But point being, I do think this draft is set up where the Giants have set their roster up to a point where they can draft into the strength of the draft, and they could wait for a running back and take him either at 199, 105, or here at 154. And so for me at 154. I was definitely going running back. I knew it was going to be my BPA, and I looked around the board, and it was. And it was between Monangai and the player I took instead of Monangai. And the player I took is a player I got to do a profile on for CBS Sports. So I got to watch a lot more of his tape than some of these running backs, I'll be honest. But Bashal Tutin, the running back out of Virginia Tech, he's on the board here at 154. And I said this, Nick. I said, when I watched this kid, I saw every ounce of the 4.32 speed that he tested at in the open field. I really did. And I looked at what was left on this board, and I look at what's there at 154, and you're just not going to find a 4.32 athlete with his kind of home run explosive potential at this pick very often. And there's a reason he's here. He's smaller. He has fumbling issues, big fumbling issues, right? Some people think he should only play in an outside zone scheme. I think the Giants can figure out a way to use him, specifically in the passing game as well in year one. Mm-hmm. And he would add a home run element to the Giants offense. And I kind of looked at it like this. I agree with you that these bigger backs maybe fit better overall, but I liked what Tracy did in short yardage situations last year. And I thought Tracy was better than I expected him to be in those spots. So I'm kind of okay leaning on him for that role and just bringing in somebody like Tutin to be something different than Singletary and Tracy. Legit home run speed on every time he touches the football, and that one cut ability where if you screw up as a defense and you give him that lane, he's going to find that cutback and just dart through it.
I like that. No, I like dart through it. All the names, all the fun nicknames we can come up with Bashal Tutin.
With Bashal Tutin, yeah.
Oh, yeah, so many out there. I do want in the running back room, and you could still add another one and go 4 running backs and get creative, and possibly one of them doesn't make the team. And it depends, but where you add someone like Tutin because he does have more of a home run aspect to his game than Tyrone Tracy Jr. and obviously Devin Singletary, but I still want that Ollie Gordon II or even a Kyle Monangai. I think Kyle Monangai is on the shorter end of this just because he's not the largest guy, but I want some thunder, man. I want some quality. I want some Wisconsin Ron Dane, okay? Not New York Giant Ron Dane. I want some Wisconsin Ron Dane on the New York Giants. So when it is 3rd and 1, we're not putting 210-pound Tyrone Tracy Jr. out there who used to be a wide receiver or Devin Singletary out there. And we have somebody with some oomph to him, some Derrick Henry to him. You know what I'm saying?
I totally get that, and I completely understand. And I'll say this about that, Nick. I hate to say it now because I like him as a player and he's fine from a value standpoint, but I do kind of wish that we didn't sign Devin Singletary to a 2-year deal when I you know how I am. I just want to get my running backs through the draft over and over again because I would have loved to take 2 backs in this class, to be honest with you. I don't think they can do it because I don't think they're going to roster 4. There's too many other positions they need for special teams purposes. They might get a 3rd quarterback on this roster, so then they really can't afford to roster 4 backs in a season. But I would love to kind of be in this draft class fresh with just Tracy on the roster, so I could have went like Tutin and Monangai or a running back a little earlier and Monangai and really drafted into the strength of this class. No offense to Singletary. He's a fine player and he's a fine value. It just goes, the way I would play a roster if I was ever GM, I would really never sign running backs from free agency. I'd kind of just keep getting these rookie deals in because there's so much talent that comes in the NFL and they're fresh legs.
Taj Brooks is 214. The Texas Tech running back. Monungai is 211. Raheem Sanders 217. South Carolina. Khalil Mullen from Michigan's 226. So there's a lot of bigger backs. And then there's Damian Martinez, who's 217. And the Damian Martinez pick, look, I took a risk when I took Tyler Shuck because I wanted Damian Martinez. And I was like, Damian Martinez should be around at 105, I hope. And he wasn't. He got sniped. And that's who I wanted at 105. And then I saw Kyle Williams still around. And I'm like, oh, well, I got Kyle Williams here, and then I have 107, and I was like, oh, this is okay. No, Williams, we'll go with that. I got a weird draft, man. I got a few Kyles, I got a few Williamses, I got a few Tylers.
I like it. Yeah,
in here, man.
You got 2 Tylers,
like 2 Tylers, 2 Kyles, 2 Williams.
Yeah, I like your draft so far. We'll see what the people think about both of our drafts at the end, and we'll go over their final picks at the end to kind of give people an idea of what we did. And maybe I'll probably put in the comments too, Nick, just to have fun, get some discussion going. Like, here's my draft, here's Nick's. Let's grade them and give your thoughts. Okay, let's get to our final. Well, I have 2 picks left. Do you have any picks left from trades or?
No, 219 and 246.
Okay, great. So what'd you do at 219?
Yeah, 219 was difficult. I was going through some of the names and they were familiar, but I didn't have a bunch of film watched on them other than really the Oklahoma State guys. More on that in a little bit. But I went with the defensive lineman, Jared Harrison Hunt out of SMU. And Jared Harrison Hunt is the type of defensive lineman that is separate from Alfred Collins. This is a 290-pound, 6'3" technique who has a really quick first step. Believe he had 44 pressures this last year at SMU. He spent 5 seasons prior to that at the University of Miami. Again, 6'3", 290. Had one of the fastest 10-yard splits of the defensive lineman. Again, he's a little bit lighter, but a 169 10-yard split at 290 is still impressive. 33-inch arms, so that you could check that box as well. Just love his initial quickness. And this to me would be a direct competition for Elijah Chapman. So through training camp, it would be Jared Harrison Hunt, who might not make the team as a 7th-round pick, competing against Elijah Chapman as a player with upfield burst. Chapman, we know Andre Patterson loves him. He's raved about his strength, his workout ability. A little bit smaller. I don't think Chapman has 33-plus-inch arms. So you would have those two compete for the role in sub packages to be a quick penetrator and disruptor next to Dexter Lawrence. So that's where I went here. Just another defensive lineman, different body type from Alfred Collins. That is Jared Harrison Hunt, defensive lineman at SMU.
I like it, Nick, and I like that you're willing to go with 2 defensive linemen in this draft class. Some people are not interested in the double dip. I am. I think keep adding depth. It's the trenches. What are we talking about here? We need as many rotational depth pieces as we can get on both sides of the ball in the trenches because that's what wins in the NFL. So I like this pick. For my pick, Nick, you know how I am when it comes to these late picks, round 6, round 7. My 2 options, the way I would play it is I'm either betting on traits entirely because I don't care. I'm not going for production at this point. Or I'm betting on the player that fell because of an injury or some like off-field weird thing, like how the Chiefs got Trey Smith in round 6 a few years ago. I didn't see any of those types of players on the board, so I went with my first option, betting on traits. I kind of leaned into something that you mentioned earlier. What was our theme of this offseason when it came to investing in players in the secondary and the defensive backs? It was ball skills. It was trying to get people who get their hands on the ball and can make interceptions or passes defense. So I took someone who set the his school single season interception record last year. He led his conference in interceptions. He had 15 passes defensed in just 10 games started in 12 total games with 6 interceptions. He's 6'3", 186 with an over 80-inch wingspan. Ran a 4.36, Nick. With a 1.47 10-yard split, a 37-inch vert, a 10.6 broad jump, a 7-cone, 7-second 7-cone. You can even move a little bit. You can even has a little bit of lateral agility despite being 6'3", 186. That player is Zoff Frazier out of UTSA. And look, I understand some people will be like, oh, you're just trying to get Tariq Woolen again? This is probably not going to be Tariq Woolen. It's round 6. But those are traits that I can get behind betting on any day of the week with that kind of ball production. This to me was an easy pick for me here because I'm looking around the board. I don't see anyone with those kind of traits or ball production or, for whatever the respective position would be if you're going for the production side of it. So this was a pick for me that I enjoyed making. Love to put him on the roster.
We're picking old guys, I see.
Yeah, he's 25 years old. It's a problem. He's an old man, but those traits are insane.
The guy I just picked too. He's Jared Harrison Hunt is an older player.
It's round 6, baby.
Tyler Shuck is going to be 26, baby. Let's do it.
Your team is so old, but Tyler Shuck bringing
it down. Carter and Booker bring it down though. That's what I like to say. All right, my last pick though. Oklahoma State edge Colin Oliver, who the Giants did have in for a top 30 visit. Now, Colin Oliver, wildly productive. Big 12 defensive freshman of the year back in 2021, where he recorded 40 pressures and 21 stops in just 374 snaps. Very, very impressive. And he followed that epic freshman season up with 39 pressures and 18 stops as a sophomore and 461 snaps and 41 pressures and 49 stops as a junior in 2023. Last year, he only played 2 games, 40 total snaps, suffered a right foot injury, missed the rest of the season, had 14 pressures and 2 sacks in those 2 games. Wildly productive. So why is he available in round 7? He has less than 31-inch arms. He's 6'2". As a 240-pound edge rusher. He missed 27.6% of his tackles in college, and that is something that he has to clean up. But at this point of the draft, I'm just looking for a player who can rush the passer and win one-on-one situations with the just stacked defensive front that the New York Giants have. And Colin Oliver displayed that throughout his entire college career at Oklahoma State. And I get it. Oklahoma State's defense sucked, but this was one of the bright spots. It was him, the corner, who the Giants also had in for a top 30 visit. Black, his last name is. And then Nick Martin, the linebacker. He's another fun player too out of Oklahoma State. I've watched a lot of Oklahoma State. The defense is not great, but Oliver can get after the pass, just relentless, understands how to string moves together, and also knows how to counter, explosive, has that ghost technique, very flexible in his lower half. Like he hit the ghost technique. He can give you that first 2 steps, get you to commit with the punch, and then just dip right underneath the punch and then tightly turn the corner. So he has a very controlled mover when it comes to operating up the pass rushing arc. That's all I want right now. This is the 246th pick in the draft. If the Giants don't select him here with a top 30 visit, if they liked him, they're going to bring him in as a priority free agent. So why not just secure him right now and have him compete? And if you look at the Giants edge room, it's not like the Giants edge room is just filled with players. You add Abdul Carter there. It's Abdul Carter. It's Kayvon Thibodeau. You have Golston, who's like an edge and a defensive lineman. And then obviously Brian Burns. Behind that, all of these other positions are somewhat up in the air, and you can get a PFA who could outcompete these back-end roster guys. And I think Colin Oliver fits that. So get him in the 7th round, lock him up, and now you have somebody who can actually be relentless and get after the passer and win those one-on-one situations that they'll consistently see if they ever end up playing in the NFL.
Yeah, and for those who want to hear more on Oliver, we broke in the coming episode. We broke him down as part of a top 30 visit. If you can get him here, Nick, that's phenomenal stuff. I'd
imagine, dude. He's 30 and 7/8 inch arms. I have longer arms than that. That's so short, dude.
So that's like, yeah, you're right though. Those are the type of guys that just fall out of drafts like this and end up going this late. Why would I not want to bet on that though? Like I get it's an outlier, but it's the last pick of the draft. Like this is not going to hit most likely. Why would I not take someone who has that kind of production and speed and burst? I love this pick for you. I like your pick better than mine that I'm about to make. But I still like my pick a lot. And my final pick of this draft, Nick. Oh, this one I'm going to get a lot of flack for.
Yes, you are.
You know it. Oh, you know the pick.
Yeah.
I see it in the chat. I forgot. Damn it. I wish this was a surprise one for you. But I think a lot about what you've talked about, Nick, and what we've talked about, which is, look, we've got a defensive coordinator who wants to run some sub packages with 3 safeties on the field. I don't really love our 3rd safety situation right now at all. I also want somebody who can be a big thumper and help in the run game at the safety position. I like Holland. I think he helps there a decent amount. And I think Newman's good there. I think we could get even better there. I think we could also use someone who might be able to match up over a tight end in the passing game, in addition to just being that thumper in the run game, somebody who clicks and closes downhill, diagnoses the run game really well from the safety position. That's the player I'm talking about, the prospect that I'm drafting here. And that player is safety Hunter Waller from Wisconsin. And yes, I understand I'm taking a Badger here. It's the first time I took a Badger in a few years in these mock drafts. But this is a dude who I watched a lot of. So am I biased? Probably. But man, was he an impactful player for that defense. In 2023, he had 120 tackles. That was the most by a Wisconsin defensive back since 1991. This is also someone who didn't have the most amazing testing, 4.57 40-yard dash at 6'2", 213 at the safety position. It's not terrible, but he also posted the best 3-cone time at 6.72 of any safety in this
6.72
class.
is wild, dude.
It's wild, and
Yeah.
it shows up when you watch him. He doesn't just play with a motor. He doesn't just slam downhill. He's got unbelievable, in my mind, ability to diagnose the run. And this is what happens in that Wisconsin system. A lot of these guys, it's such an aggressive attack downhill system, but like, I think he does a good job of diagnosing. I think he's even okay in pass coverage. I think he does a good job of getting himself in the right position there. Maybe not great in that regard. I don't think he's going to be that for us anyway. So, yes, he's somebody who is sometimes looking like he's playing with his hair on fire, and maybe that's something that NFL scouts will not like, and that's why he drops in the draft, and that's something maybe he'll have to refine. But this guy can change directions. He's got lateral agility, and he is a beast in the run game, and I would love to add him for some specific sub packages for the Giants, 3 safeties, and I think he'll be a great special teamer as well. So, and that's something that you got to think about when you're taking a player at 246 overall.
For a 6'2", 213-pound safety too, he moves
Yeah,
well. Like he has some movement. I'm not saying he's necessarily fluid when he's moving backward, but if you have him going forward, not just like breaking down and going against the run, but like chasing the quarterback in pursuit, the guy has some short area quickness and he covers some ground. He has range to him.
Yep, he does. And look, it's just one of those things where, like, when you watch a defense long enough, Nick, like, I know from watching this Wisconsin defense for years, he's been one of the biggest pieces of this defense. He's been one of the most important players they've had on the field. That matters to me in a lot of ways. It's somebody who I think, like, why would that not matter to me? It was something, it's not to this level, but it's one of the reasons I love Jalen Petrie, and I watched him, and he was one of my favorite prospects. He's been great with the Texans. I was like, he was their entire defense. He's on every play. This is not Wooler. Wooler is not anywhere near that kind of prospect in any way, shape, or form, but he was a really important piece of that defense. Obviously, 120 tackles is insane in the season. So happy to get him here with my last pick.
120 tackles, and all, dude. You brought the 3-cone, but the vertical jump too. 37 inches.
Bad.
That's not bad. No. I'm trying to find your Reed Blankenship, aren't you there, bub?
I'm trying to find my Reed Blankenship. The Eagles did it. Why can't I do it? We shouldn't be making that comp just because they're white and they play safety. We're not those guys. All right. Let's recap our draft. Both of our drafts. I want you to go over your draft, Nick. I'll go over mine, and then I'll put it in the comments at the end so people can discuss.
Yeah. So at 3 overall, I went with Abdul Carter. No shocker there. And then at 34, I went with Tyler Booker, the offensive guard out of Alabama. And then at pick 65, I traded 5 picks down to pick 70 and collected pick 107. Worth it. And then at pick 70, I selected Alfred Collins, the defensive lineman out of Texas. And then from there, we go and we drop down to pick 99, I believe, right? Yes. And it is Tyler Shuck, the quarterback out of Louisville. And pick 105, Kyle Williams, wide receiver out of Washington State. Love that player. Pick 107 in the 4th round, Noel Williams, cornerback out of Cal, another Nick Filato favorite. Round 5, pick 154, Kyle Monangai, running back out of Rutgers. And then pick 219 in the 7th round, Jared Harrison Hunt, defensive lineman out of SMU. And then round 7, pick 246, Colin Oliver, edge out of Oklahoma State.
Love it. My draft, somewhat similar to yours. I did Abdul Carter at number 3 overall. The edge out of Penn State, can also play off-ball linebacker, can also play spy for the Giants, line up over the A-gap, the B-gap. Worrying about how to get him on the field is not a smart thing to do. I took Tyler Booker, the interior offensive lineman out of Alabama, with my 2nd pick. I'm thinking about starting him right away for the Giants. I think Nick would agree with this. Alfred Collins, immediate rotational defensive tackle for me, and our next big run stopper. Great length, great arm size, big size in the middle, defensive tackle. Then I went Harold Fannin Jr., my guy of mine, a big slot / tight end, move tight end, whatever you want to call him, weapon for the Giants offense. One of my favorite values in this entire class. Then I got my other favorite value in this class. I guess if he's going to go at 105 in a mock, me and Nick think he might go, 30 picks higher than this, but it's not impossible for these types of players, I think, to fall. I actually don't think it's impossible to get Kyle Williams, the wide receiver who I got and Nick got.
Especially in a deeper wide receiver class. Right. Too. But he's a little different, man. He's got a little bit of difference to him.
Another reason why we like him, but a reason why I think he might fall based on that. Okay, so he was my pick at 105. Then at 154, I did running back like Nick, but I went with Bashal Tutin, 4.32 speed out of Virginia Tech, one cut, and just bang, he goes. But also with Bashal Tutin, I didn't mention this, He was top 5 somehow in yards after contact per attempt. And he is really good with that low 5'8", low center of gravity. He can get in and out of contact. He's a strong player, contact. And then Zoff Frazier, the old corner at 219 out of UTSA with insane traits that I went over. That's straight base pick. And then 246, my boy Hunter Waller from Wisconsin, the safety. And that's my draft class.
I like it, dude. I think we both did solid. And I want the listeners to rate it, to talk about it, to give their opinions on how Dan and I did, who
grade
won,
our drafts.
Who lost, grade them. Yeah, both grades. And look, we do minuses and pluses here. If it's a round number, hey, we can accept it. But we like the minuses and pluses, man.
So no, I want you to follow my system here.
Is your system the 5.26?
Yes. No. 1 decimal. My system is the same system we use for our film reviews during the season. Give us a grade 1 through 10 on the draft. But if you're doing like a 7, make it a 7.1 or a 7.3. Don't do just a 7 flat.
What if they think it's a 7 flat?
Well, then you do a 7 flat. If you think it's 7 flat, you do a 7 flat. But type in 7.0. I want to see the 0.0. I don't want to see a whole number like 7. And grade our drafts 1 through 10 here. Let us know how you think. Let's know what you might have done different. Let us know players you want, players you don't like, players you like that we drafted. I think this was fun. Yeah, we draft a lot of players we've talked about, Nick. It's that kind of draft, I think, for the Giants in a lot of ways. But I was happy to get in some of my guys. I was really happy to get Fannin. I'm a really big believer in him. So anyway, thank you for listening to Big Blue Banter Podcast. Thank you for getting us over 10,000 subscribers. And thank you for commenting and liking on every video. That really helps us. Have a great rest of your weekend. And hopefully, like me, you'll get out there on the golf course. It's going to be 82 and sunny on Saturday. And I will be golfing with my brother. Shout out Matt Schneier. I will be golfing with a family friend. Shout out Scott Levine. And we will be playing a course I've never played in Staten Island. So I didn't even know they had
Staten Island. Really?
Yeah. Saturday. Right. Yeah. So anyway, have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. And enjoy the weather. Giants draft coming soon.